In this video, I'll share with you a requested tutorial on sewing formulas on how to get your basic measurements, especially when you're working for a client that is far or someone that you didn't get the accurate measurement. So these calculations can work for you. So for this requested tutorial, we are working on the shoulder to bust point, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to half length, and nipple to nipple, and also how to get your knee point. Now starting off, we are going to start with our shoulder. Now for your shoulder measurements, to get your shoulder is you're going to use your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Now if you notice, this measurement is similar to that of the chest line when you're finding your chest line. Yes, you can also use this method to find your chest line. You can also use this for your shoulder. Now my bust circumference is 33 divided by 6 plus 1.5. What I will get is 7 inches. Now my actual measurement, my actual shoulder is 14 inches. Now when you're plotting this on your pattern, remember that you place your pattern on fold. That means you're going to place half of your shoulder on the pattern. Half of my shoulder is 7 inches, which means that this method is accurate. Now the next is how to get your shoulder to bust points, right? Now on how to get your shoulder to bust point, the measurement you need is your bust circumference divided by 4 plus 1 inch. Now my bust is 33. If you divide it by 4, you have roughly 8.3. Now when you're using this method, just know that in most cases you can have a difference of 0.25 to 0.5, which is not still bad. You can use it for your measurements. Now this 8.3 plus 1 inch, now I'll have 9.3 inches. Now if I place my tape from my shoulder to measure my shoulder to bust, my measurement most times is between 9 inches to 9.1. So that means actually this method is actually correct. So you can use this for your shoulder to get your shoulder to bust point. Now to get your shoulder to under bust point, for your shoulder to under bust point, this totally depends on the person. Let's say you're working for someone that is not too tall, someone that is not too busty. Let's say bust 30 to 34 inches. You're going to add extra 3 inches to their bust. Now my shoulder to bust is 9 inches. If I add extra 3 inches to it, I'll have 12, which is my actual measurement. So let's say if you're working for someone between bust 30 to 34, you're going to add 3 inches. Now if you're working for someone that is between bust 35 to 39 inches, you add extra 3.5 inches, right? Now if you're working for bust 40 and above 45, you can go ahead to add extra 4 inches to the bust point, that is the shoulder to bust point, to get the shoulder to under bust point. Now let's move over to the nipple to nipple point. Now for this nipple to nipple point, I'm going to be sharing 3 different methods to get this. Now the first method is where you divide your round bust measurement by 8 plus 1 inch. Now if I divide my round bust measurement by 8 and add it up, so this is another method. Now the next method is using your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5, which is exactly also the measurement for your chest line or your shoulder. Now what you will get is 7 inches. Now for this method, if you place your tape and measure it, you find out that, like me now, if I place my tape from my nipple to nipple, it is 7 inches. Now when you're drafting your pattern, you can now go ahead to divide it by 2, which is when we are cutting out like our corset pattern, you mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2, which I will now get 3.5. Now the next method for this is the standard method. This method actually works for everybody. You can use this. So for this method, you have like bust 30 to 32 inches. We'll use a nipple to nipple of 6 to 6.5. Now if you're in the range of 30, you use 6 inches. If you're from 31 and half to 32, you can use 6.5. So from bust 33 to 36 inches to 36 inches, we'll use 7 inches to 7.5. Now if your bust is from 34 to 33, you're going to use 7 inches. Why? If your bust is from 35 to 36, you use 7.5. Now the next is bust 38 to bust 40. Now you will use 8 to 8.5 inches. Let's say if your bust is within 38 to 39, you can use 8 inches. Now for this 8.5, you can also see bust 40 that has a nipple to nipple of 8 inches. So it totally depends on the body type most times. Now for bust 41 to 44, you're going to use 8.5 to 9.5 inches. Right? Now from bust 45 to 50 and above, you can get 9.5 to, let's say 9.5, 10 to 10.5, right? So this, you can use this actually works very well. Now the next method is how to get your shoulder to half length. So to get your shoulder to half length is actually, your shoulder to half length is your bust point, your shoulder to bust point plus extra 3 inches. That is how to get a half length. Now to get your shoulder to waist measurement, so for your shoulder to waist measurement, you can use your shoulder to bust point plus extra 4 to 5 inches. So half length, in this half length, let's say you're making all those type of bustier that doesn't really get to the waistline, right? You can use this. But let's say you want to like measure your full half length, that is your shoulder to waistline, you can add extra 4 to 5 inches from your actual measurement. Unless you're working on someone that has a very long body, there's some people their upper body is longer while their lower body is also shorter. Now another measurement we are going to talk about is the knee. No, so for this knee, it varies. So let's say for a shorter person, from the waist to knee point, you can get around 18 to 20. So for someone that is much taller, you can get 20 inches to 22, 23 and 24. This totally depends on the person's height, right? So for this, I don't really think there's an actual measurement, but it just totally depends on the height of the person you're actually making the dress. If the person is very tall, you can use a bit tall, you can use between 21 to 22 inches, unless the person is quite tall, like very very tall. On the person is very very tall, you can go ahead to use like 23 inches. So with this, I've come to the end of this video. If you have any question, you can go ahead also to ask.